I've had fun making various cutting boards over the years, from a sturdy end grain cutting board to kind of a fancy epoxy river cutting board style. And this one is a little on the simple side. It's very natural looking. It's made from white oak, and I call it my Steakhouse cutting board. It's oversized, 16 by 24 in this case, and a couple interesting techniques on this one. I'll show you how to cut that juice groove on a cutting board that actually has curved edges. That's a little bit of a trick, but we've got a nice way to do that. And then when it comes to laser engraving, if you want to add something like that on your project, I'll show you the out of focus technique to get an extra dark engraving. Well, picking out the lumber for each project has always been one of my favorite parts, but this time I get to use and kind of celebrate any of the unique grain that I might have set aside otherwise as a defect, but for a cutting board, let's go ahead and use it. And then as far as what glue to choose, here's the deal. Normally, if I'm using a light colored finish, I'll use a Titebond 2 because I've noticed that glue does dry to a little lighter color. But in this case, what's more important is the moisture resistance. So for that, I'm going to go with the Titebond 3. A couple good beads there, and we'll get this glued up. My wife always says I use too much glue. And how would you know? There's no such thing as too much glue. I like to use small clamps on the joint lines just to help align things as I tighten up the large clamps. And maybe a couple more clamps up top just to balance out the forces. And just take a board with a jointed edge and make sure everything is overall nice and flat. And if it's not, just adjust the clamps until it is. This one's looking okay. So that's what we've got at this point. It's a nice wide plank, and 16 inches wide in fact, so I'm guessing most of you won't have a planer that's quite wide enough to handle that, but not a big deal. You can always work up a plank like this in sections with a smaller planer. But for me, I'll head over to the 20-inch planer and smooth this out a bit. And then the next step will be at the drum sander, and I'm going to do an interesting test there. I'm going to choke down the dust collection fitting from a 4-inch to a 2.5 just to see if my Dust Cobra can handle that at the drum sander. And this will be a test for this dust collector, because I tell you what, in my shop, the most difficult tool to collect from is the drum sander. It creates all kinds of fine dust, and we'll see how it does, but I have a couple video resources for you. One is a full review on that Oneida Dust Cobra, and the other one is how to enclose a metal base like on this 1938 drum sander, and both of those you'll find down in the description. And normally I'd never try using a 2.5-inch hose on a 4-inch port, but with this high pressure system, I wanted to give it a try. Looks like that's keeping everything tidy inside there, at least as good as my dust collector with a 4-inch port. All right, looks like that smoothed out our panel pretty well, but what surprised me was the dust collector was actually able to keep up even with that 2.5-inch hose. So this may mean I can just ditch my other portable dust collector, because I really like the way this one works at the router table, but hey, if I can handle my drum sander with this too, I can get rid of the other one. So I've got my trusty bowstring here with a little turnbuckle, and I'll use that to make small adjustments to the curve. And I'm going to make my template out of that. The template in turn will be used to cut the cutting board to final shape, but then we're also going to use this because it's actually a little bit undersized to make a juice groove around the perimeter. Juice groove. Since this cutting board is 16 by 24, I need to make my template 14 by 24. Just to account for the inset on that juice groove. Juice groove. And the same thing on the front edge. So then you can just use that template curve that we just smoothed to actually mark out the curve for your cutting board itself. And that way you know that the juice groove will perfectly match the shape of the board. Juice groove. Now it may have been a little bit easier to leave one of these edges square for now and just flip my template over to mark both edges of the cutting board, but as it is, I'll have to use a track saw here to remove about 1 inch from each end of this template. All right, with the template clamped in place, let's check out the router setup and trim those edges to final shape. Okay, bearing guided bit. This one actually has top and bottom bearing, but this is the only one we'll be using to follow that template. So here's the part when you want to pause and ask yourself, do you want to make multiple of these items like you're going to go into production with them? In that case, duplicate this template at this point before you trim the ends to final length.
Juice groove.
Yeah, that worked pretty good. Let's have a little closer look at my router setup and a couple little tricks I use for best results. So first of all, not only is the template carpet taped down to the workpiece, but the workpiece in turn is taped down to the bench. And that's just because I don't have a great place to put clamps. Anywhere you would secure it with clamps, they would be in the way at some point and you'd have to stop. So that's basically the place you start. But then on the setup, you may have noticed that there's blocks here on the side, a scrap from my cutting board, and then a scrap from my template material. And that just helps it kind of match the thickness of the overall stack there and prevents any router tipping as I move around the piece. And you may have seen people try this with a bearing guided bit, and while that may work, I definitely prefer this guide bushing. That way you can raise the plunge router at any time without ruining your template. And this double-sided carpet tape does all the holding. Even these blocks are secured with it. And I use this X-Fasten brand, just about a 1/2 inch strip. Works really good. So with my Creality 20-watt diode laser, this is the spacer it would have me use to set my laser height for normal focus, and that's a little bit thinner than a 1/4 inch. Instead, I'm going to use a 3/8 inch spacer to set the height of my laser. So that'll keep us very close to the stated spec, just slightly above, and that out of focus makes all the difference for the look you get on your engraving. It's always a little bit of guesswork how big you want the design, but I think this will be about right. Okay, that engraving came out nice, just what I was after. Here's the Howard's Butcher Block Conditioner that I like to use. Now I know some purists will say you're supposed to dip a cutting board in mineral oil first, but after all, this product is just a blend of mineral oil and beeswax, and I like it because it's really easy to use and just dries to a nice satin finish. All right guys, thanks for sticking around. This is a really fun project and beginner friendly as well. So you don't have to do all the laser engraving. That's purely optional on this one. But that one technique that I think is really worth trying is cutting a juice groove on a curved cutting board. That may just improve your confidence with a plunge router. Another thing I'd like you to do is drop down to the description box because I've got some video resources there that are worth checking out. One on a super sturdy end grain cutting board, and then another one on epoxy river boards, really colorful and fun to make. So that's a great one to go with, or just dive right into the Steakhouse cutting board.